Prison barber.
Mother lover.
Nearsighted gynecologist.
In your face, camel cake.
In your rear, cow derriere.
Lying, crying, spying, prying, ultra pig.
You lewd, crude, rude, bag of pre-chewed food dude.
Bag of Peter!
Hey there, enthusiasts. Welcome back to Hero Talk. I'm your host, Judge Greg. Joining me today, I have Jeff and Jen once again. Guys, welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So, for this Hero Talk, we recently lost one of the finest actors that we've seen in our generation, which was Robin Williams. And I really wanted to focus on getting a movie that would truly honor his career and something that we could do. Now, also in this movie is Bob Hoskins, who's another Hero Talk favorite, and sort of to honor him, we had already recorded Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and we let that stand as sort of his dedication. But I wanted to do something like that for Robin Williams, and so I decided that we were gonna do Hook. And that was a mistake. This is not the right movie to honor his career. I realize that now. We have to find another Robin Williams movie now, because we can't let this one be the tribute. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is this is not a tribute to Robin Williams. We will have a tribute to Robin Williams, but this is not that.
It should not be that. No.
Yeah, this is not the tribute. Because we are not going to be kind, I think. And I think it also stands. It's worth mentioning, I feel, that this will end up being the Thanksgiving episode of Hero Talk. And this year, I'm thankful I don't ever have to watch Hook again. This is it. This was the one time. I can put it to bed for life now. I'm done with Hook. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. Like, that's what I'm thankful for.
Podcast over.
Podcast done. Thank you. Peace out, everybody. Enjoy your turkeys. No, but I should say, now granted, this movie is considerably old. It's 20 years old, 22 years old?
Yeah, something like that. Almost
24 years old.
24 years old, yeah.
Okay, so this movie's quite old. Well, we will try to keep it to the topic at hand. Anything is fair game. There is nothing off the table, so you've been warned. And also worth noting that Peter Pan is in the public domain, so honestly, like you can't really cry spoiler at this point for much of anything.
No.
So I guess the weird thing about this is, as I just mentioned, Peter Pan is in the public domain. Or at least I assume Peter Pan's in the public domain. I didn't actually look that up. That might be wrong, but since it was a Disney movie, I'm just presuming they just grabbed something out of the public domain like they always do. There's a lot of different source material that goes into a movie like this, and I think a lot of people were probably very familiar with the Disney version of Peter Pan. And then there was also a pretty popular series on Fox when I was growing up called Fox's Peter Pan and the Pirates. And I watched quite a bit of that show, which I think tied more closely to the books, but it made a lot of changes sort of to how things were portrayed. They were trying to distance themselves from the Disney version.
Yeah.
And then Disney has also since released a lot of kind of tangential lore stuff, especially surrounding like Tinkerbell and her origins. And then there's this whole other side thing with Captain Hook and the Neverland Pirates. That's a show on Disney Junior that I do watch quite regularly. So I know quite a bit from there, or it's a little bit more jovial than this. And then the play and the book kind of did their own thing. So, and I think I saw a couple of other cartoon adaptions of the book. So, well, I can't recall much of the details of that now. I believe at the time that I actually watched this in 91, saw this one in the theaters, by the way, at that point, I actually had so much Pan lore knowledge from all the different sources that I was able to start picking out things that were, like, spot on. And now when I watch, like, I kind of can grab a little bit, but it was really weird for me because I know so much of Peter Pan, but it's just so little from a lot of different sources. So when I watch something like this, and I'm trying to like look at it, is in understanding I have to do a Hero Talk, and the CinemaSins took away about 90% of what I wanted to talk about anyway. So I had this whole thing written up. I picked apart the baseball game piece by piece, and then CinemaSins did like 2.5 minutes just on the baseball game. I'm like, well, I can't use any of this now, because now it's going to look like I just watched them and ripped them off. So once again, thank you, CinemaSins, for making my job harder. So, I mean, that's where I came from. So it was very interesting in that, as near as I can tell and remember, this movie follows its own lore. Some of it is kind of like, I mean, Captain Hook looks straight out of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, then some of it is like, in terms of the Lost Boys and what they did and how things ended, and it got a little confusing, and so...
I'm pretty sure that there wasn't skateboards in J.M. Barrie's original source material, for example.
Likely not, no. Well, and there weren't as many Lost Boys in the original material, and then the Lost Boys that we were presented with were predominantly created for the movie and weren't Lost Boys from the source material.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only Lost Boys that were actually in the source material that made it in this movie is one Toodles, of course, was a Lost Boy who did go home, and much like in the source material, he missed the adventure, because that was kind of his thing. Adventure always seemed to happen when he wasn't around. And the twins were like still in Neverland for some reason, which in very few adaptions, it's like, I think in Disney, the Lost Boys stayed in Neverland, but then in most adaptions, the Lost Boys went back, and in at least one adaptation I've seen, Mr. Smee also went back.
Really?
To be a park janitor or whatever?
No, like he went to his mother or something, which was kind of weird. I don't know. It was a little bit confusing. So that's enough of me talking about Peter Pan. So let's talk to you guys, and I think I want to start with Jeff, because Jen's has the most interesting take on this movie, as is the formula whenever we do a hero talk. So Jeff, had you seen this movie before, and what did you know about Peter Pan going in?
I have some passing familiarity with the J.M. Barrie source material, but I would have to say most of what I know about it, I know from the 50s Disney animated version. Everything, and that's why, the look of Captain Hook, for example, looks so familiar here. It's got to be their primary source of inspiration. The red and white and black, everything about it. I certainly knew that it was a stage play, turn of the century, that it was very popular. I didn't have what you'd call any great attachment to it. I knew some of the names, but I didn't go in with high hopes, because I'd kind of heard when I was younger that it was a bit of a mess, having not seen it in the theaters, and it wouldn't have been at the age I was when it came out, it wouldn't have appealed to me anyway, and I did not enjoy this. In fact, about 2/3 of the way through the film, I started asking questions as to whose idea this was and who I should get angry at. I needed to blame someone, because I was praying for this thing to end. And I made the mistake, and I'm sure you do this too, Greg. Jen is good at not doing this, but I do this all the time. I look at the runtime before the thing starts.
Oh gosh, you can't.
Yeah, I did that here, and I was just praying for this. It started slowly, it finished slowly, and I'm not fond. And normally big casts of lots of talented people tend to, to me, I like a lot of films like that, but in this one, I don't really think anybody here's got anything to write home about in terms of performances.
Yeah, and let me just talk about the opening. Like, how long was it into this movie before we even made it to Neverland? I want to say it was like at least a half hour to 40 minutes before we even saw Neverland.
Yeah.
For the first time.
Yeah.
Which was weird, because when they showed Neverland, they have that one shot where Peter looks out over Neverland, and so I paused it to see if I'd recognize it, and I recognized part of it. I remember seeing Belch Mountain. I don't know if they actually call it Belch Mountain, but on Jake and the Neverland Pirates it's called Belch Mountain. I did not see Skull Rock, which was kind of weird, because I really thought that was from the source material. So that might have been just a Disney fabrication. Other than that, kind of looked like Neverland. So, I mean, a lot of the look and feel, I don't know how much you can actually, say that this stuff came from, the source material or not, because I don't really know to what extent they continually went out and described, like, what Captain Hook looked like, or what Mr. Smee looked like, and stuff like that,
I mean, part of me assumes that a lot of the look that people have in their minds of what these characters look like comes from Disney. For all I know, there were drawings in the original novel, children's novel, perhaps, that inform a lot of that. I don't know, but everything looks right to me. It's not glaring, the look of everything, but the feel of everything, on the other hand, was,
I mean, everything looked great. I mean, when Mr. Smee shows up, that's Mr. Smee. There's no question in your mind, that's Mr. Smee. And I mean, obviously, when we first see Hook in what I was going to say should have been the opening scene, but then CinemaSins said it, so now I can't say that, but it's still true, and screw you, CinemaSins. You know, in the first scene when we're finally introduced to Hook, like after seeing all these indications of Hook and the stupid Hook shaped, and all these little winky nods in this movie really started to get me fed up, including Pan Air. Do you remember Pan Air? Get it?
Yeah.
Get it? Because it's Pan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-oh, you're gonna fly, Peter. He's afraid to fly. Get it? Get it? He's afraid to fly.
Oh, look, if you look deeper, and God help you if you do, but if you look deeper, there's some subtle, like for instance, the Peter's living in San Francisco, so he goes from Neverland, this faraway magical place that lives outside of reality, and lives his adult life in this faraway magical land that lives outside of reality. So there's parallels there too. But yeah, and then there's the overt stuff like that, and the latch as well. It's
And
there.
all his coworkers, like, what did they say? Something like, "Don't let your arms get tired."
Oh my God.
Did they really have like an old-fashioned Wild West draw with their cell phones? Who does that? That was
terrible.
I mean, like, and get bearing in mind that this is why he's not seeing his kid's baseball game. Now,
yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and go on the Disney dad rant here, and I'm not the first person to say that, nor am I the first person with a podcast to say it, but I agree with it, and I think it needs to be said. Is, when somebody's working their butt off and trying to make money to support their family, let's not pretend that they're a bad dad because they missed a baseball game. However, when you missed a baseball game because you're goofing around with your friends doing old-fashioned Wild West cell phone draws, and you send some dude there in order to see the play, and he only sees the very last play, and you promised him all kinds of stuff, but you didn't make it, then that's a bad dad. And when you go extreme like that, now bear in mind, you're not making me sympathetic to the character, first of all, and now he's so far into the bad dad realm, but like not the real bad dad, like doesn't abuse his kids, just kind of isn't there for him, and it really annoys me. So it's a poor portrayal trying to get me on board with the fact that he has a ways to go to gain some ground, but he is still providing for his kids, and and even if he was there, he was just going to see Jack strike out, because apparently Jack can't hit a curveball, which makes me just can't hit a curveball. Like they don't even try to play it off like, oh, he has trouble with it or he's got a poor percentage. He just can't do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on to Jen. Jen,
Okay.
have you seen this movie before, and what do you know of Peter Pan?
I had not seen it before. The first time I ever watched it was today.
Yay, Hero Talk.
Yes. I blame you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thank you.
Another life touch.
As far as Peter Pan, all I knew was the Disney movie. I mean, like Jeff said, that was basically my introduction. I never read any kind of source material. I just watched the Disney movie. But it always felt pretty complete to me, so I never really felt the need to kind of fish out more about it or to read it or whatever. But, I love the cartoon. As far as the movie, I mean, I don't even know where to start, and I know we'll cover all these different topics, but, to talk, like how you mentioned about him basically being portrayed not just as like a forgetful dad or a dad who works too much. They really made him look really, really bad, and that was bothering me a lot because, like you said, if he was just a workaholic, they should have just had him sitting in his office working hard, trying to finish in time, and then look at the clock and be like, oh my God, I'm late, and then rush out of the office to go to the game, and then he misses it. Because then you kind of feel bad for him. Like, he's working really hard to provide for his family. He lost track of time. Yeah, he's goofing around with his cell phone. I don't know, that bothered me too. But earlier you guys already mentioned how it looked, like Neverland. I didn't really like it. I didn't really like a lot of the set design or like the Lost Boys. To me, when I think of them, I think of really cute little like animal costumes. I mean, if you look at the Disney movie, they're like adorable little boys that don't want to grow up, and one looks like a skunk and one looks like a bear. And it's so cute and cuddly, and I kind of wish they had kept a little bit of that because it's very endearing. To me, the Lost Boys got under my skin, and I don't know why, but they were all driving me nuts the whole time.
Well,
so I just have to get that out there because you guys
closer
were talking.
to the source material. The Lost Boys weren't supposed to be cute. They were actually.
But I like that they're cute.
Yeah, well, but that's what you have to remember going in is that like people walked in basically just knowing the Peter Pan cartoon, the Disney cartoon. So you can't always be like, well, closer to the source material. It's like, people don't know that. Like, that's the thing.
Went in it knowing the Disney one, yeah.
Yeah, people knew the Disney one. They had no real knowledge of this whole, like, oh, Peter did horrible things, and Peter cuts off Hook's hand and feeds it to TikTok Croc.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just talk about TikTok Croc for a second? I know we haven't even talked about the cast, but so TikTok Croc was killed and stuffed, and they put a big giant clock in his mouth for some reason.
Yeah.
Which is kind of odd, given that he doesn't like the ticking, but he doesn't like the ticking because of TikTok Croc. So
this is him owning it. He's like, I'm just going to overcome it by playing into this.
Yeah,
dude.
and he smashes clocks. So that, I mean, okay, so we're just going to accept the weirdness of that, even though that was stupid. And it was stupid and stupid. But, oh, so stupid. At the end, when TikTok kinda wakes up, he wasn't animated. He didn't actually come back to life.
He wasn't breathing, yeah.
He just kinda fell on Hook, and then a bunch of smoke came out, and then the inanimate statue stuffed Croc burped.
Yeah.
Am I really supposed to believe that the Croc ate
long
Hook?
dead and stuffed.
Yeah. It was...
Yeah.
It was basically it ended on a big ol' what? Come on.
Yeah.
Which I think for this movie is about par for course.
I mean, yeah, if it had some sort of epic conclusion, it would have been ill-fitting, oddly enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just, it had high aspirations, but Steven Spielberg, man, Spielberg, he's a hit or miss guy. He really is.
Yeah.
It's either spot on or it's just a mess, and this was a mess.
Well, look, and he should have known better. He jumped off the production. Early on when it was in development, and then he got back onto it when I think Disney exited stage left. So he had history with this production, and got through to pre-production apparently, and then 5-6 years later under TriStar it happened.
Right.
There were just so many weird things, like the whole mermaids kissing him thing just came back to me.
It really felt like they were just sitting there like, well, we have to somehow work the mermaids into this story somehow.
It just felt like a bizarro orgy under the sea. Like, what's going on?
Well, yeah, it was a weird way to introduce the mermaids, just to have them keep Peter, because basically everyone kind of thought he was dead, right? Like,
yeah,
they're like, oh well, he's dead. I mean, Tinkerbell went back to the Lost Boys' home. Why is she still hanging out with the Lost Boys? I don't know. You would think Peter's been gone for, some 40-some-odd years at this point? Like,
yeah.
You think she'd be back in Fairy Hollow, but whatever. No, she's hanging out with the Lost Boys. Can they even understand her? I'm not sure.
Doesn't seem like it, really.
Yeah, I mean, in the Disney lore, whenever the fairies talk, all humans can hear are just a jingling bell, and, like, Peter's the only one who can actually talk to her. But, yeah, when in the Tinkerbell movies, all the fairies can talk to each other, and there's this whole... I don't know how much of this is just made up completely out of Disney's mind, or how much of it was hinted at in the books, but, like Tinkerbell's a tinker fairy, so she fixes things and she tinkers, which is why her house is like that weird clock with all the gears, because she's a tinker fairy, so she would have just kind of built that off of random stuff that she found laying around. She's got a sister, Periwinkle. She's a snow fairy or a winter fairy. And they make anyway, I'm gonna stop.
I'm just gonna stop now.
Yeah. Alright. You know what? Let's just get into the cast.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about the mermaids anymore. So, I guess we gotta start with, do we have to start with Robin Williams? I feel bad. We've been tearing this movie apart. So this is Robin Williams. Again, Robin Williams, one of the finest actors of this generation. One of my personal favorites of all time. I love his work. I love about 99% of everything he did, and that includes Mork and Mindy. All right, I was just in Disney World. I was wearing a Genie shirt specifically because I love Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And I wanted to honor him by wearing a Genie shirt around Disney World. He was flat and not funny, and with the brief exception of some ad-libbed parts when he was in the insult duel with Rufio, just was at his worst. And when you have a guy who's that talented, you can't blame Robin. It's not like he couldn't have done anything. You got to blame what he was given.
Yeah, I'd say so. And the whole thing of him not being able to remember who he is for pretty much 98% of the film meant that he was playing a watered down version of his, true self or whatever. But
and then even once he does kind of become himself and he remembers everything, then friggin' Tinkerbell has to remind him, oh, remember you're supposed to save your kids?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
even once he's like fighting for him, he's like,
I wanna
forgetting
be her
what he's there
feather.
to do and stuff. So
Yeah.
you still can't like him.
That was a really, really weird scene. That was the scene where Tinkerbell just up and grew to human size because
Wanted to kiss him.
Julia Roberts was tired of acting in front of a blue screen. Let's just call it what it is. Because she didn't interact with any other actor for this entire time, so I'm sure this was her one scene where she actually got to have a part with the lead.
Huh.
She was a really weird casting choice for me. At least in my opinion.
She's always kind of a weird casting choice, isn't she?
There's certain, it's like okay, I've never seen, what's it called? Pretty Woman or whatever. I've never seen that.
The Hooker movie, yeah.
Huh? The Hooker movie?
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of movies with her. Honestly, I'm not her biggest fan, but there's certain roles where she fits perfectly well. But Tinkerbell, like, it's supposed to be this small little blonde spunky thing. It's not.
Yeah, she wasn't even blonde.
No. It was just so weird.
And she wasn't wearing green. And like, bear in mind that even if you haven't seen the Peter Pan, Disney trots out Tinkerbell for everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many movies do they end with Tinkerbell just rolling out and, like, casting a wand? She never has a wand. I don't know why she suddenly has a wand here. Like, casting her wand and the whole thing, like, erupts in this whole thing of pixie dust.
Yeah.
Now, pixie dust is really weird. I don't know how it's supposed to work. So here's what I do know. Okay, Tinkerbell needs pixie dust to fly, even though she has wings. That's according to Disney. Peter Pan does not need pixie dust to fly because he learned to fly from Tinkerbell. I've never quite understood that, and the movie at least gets it right where he doesn't need pixie dust to fly. Not sure why Tinkerbell would even need pixie dust to fly, given she's got wings.
Actual wings.
Yeah, but that's a Disney thing. I don't know. I don't know if that was from the books at all, but it's just kind of weird that they sprinkle it on stuff and people just start flying. Like, isn't the whole point you're supposed to get sprinkled with pixie dust, then you think a happy thought, and then you can fly?
Yeah, in that order.
So I'm not entirely sure why Peter suddenly stopped flying if he knew how to fly. Because he doesn't need the pixie dust. It's established. Even this movie gets it right. Peter Pan does not need pixie dust to fly. He can just fly at will. So how does that just stop? I don't know. Okay.
So I guess it's all wrapped up with his memories, losing his memory and stuff. But again, they don't explain a lot of that until well into the film.
Yeah.
I totally derailed you. Sorry, we were still talking about Robin Williams.
Well, you know what? We're done talking about Robin Williams. You know what? Let's just save it for until we do the What Dreams May Come hero talk.
Yeah. That works.
All right.
And your old favorite Nick Hart, screenwriter, and Michael Myers stand-in.
Was
what?
Nick Castle? Yeah, was the screenwriter for this film.
No.
Sorry, the story was by Nick Castle.
Screenplay. This was a
James
giant mess with an idiot. All
Bless
right.
you, sir, but no.
Yeah. All right. So let's hit one of the high points of the cast. Dustin Hoffman as the great and glorious Captain Hook. Spot on. I don't know. He looked like Hook. He talked like Hook. He was how I would imagine a live action Hook would behave. That was it. He was creepy when he had to be. He was Captain Hook, the sneaky snook. There you go.
Yeah. He was very good. I mean, he's an amazing actor. So
right, he's a good actor, and then he looked the part. To the spot on looked the part, and he behaved like Hook. Even given how awful some of the lines he had to say was, and having to send somebody to the boo box. And that his Hook divined that somebody bet he wouldn't get Peter's. I don't know.
Oh, and the bit with him wanting to kill himself, and he's isn't this a kids' film ideally? And he's like, I just want. I have nothing to live for.
It was definitely sold as a kids' film. However, there was some heavy stuff in there. And you got to remember, Peter's kids were at that baseball game where I think at least 3 people died in that game.
Yeah.
There's
but at least
a lot
that
of
was Slaps dying, and then Rufio, and I know I'm spoiling towards the end of the movie, but there's some people dying in this fairly regularly.
The balance was just so out of whack. Everything was so silly, and the Lost Boys attacking with all these weird. There's gumdrops, and there's this weird sludge that looks like Play-Doh, and it's so silly. And then a couple of people actually do die, and it's like, what are you doing? What's going on? Or did he really just shank him? It just felt so out of place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you want? I agree. It was. it was really weird. The tone of the movie kept shifting to like, oh, it's light and funny, and the Lost Boys, and they want to have fun and use their imagination. Then people are getting shot and stabbed. And I mean, Rufio straight up kills some pirates.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right before he dies.
And I want to say at one point, Captain Hook doesn't Smee like say like, oh, you want to go shoot some Indians? That'll make you feel better. And you're like, oh, that's racist.
That's
Yeah.
cringeworthy.
Yeah, that's
But
not
yes,
right.
Dustin Hoffman was a very, very good choice.
Yeah.
Unlike, I think, obviously, Robin Williams. But
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
Robin Williams would have been a good choice if he'd been able to actually be Robin
I
Williams.
really think that he was stifled. I have nothing to say to back up that theory other than the fact that it's Robin Williams and, like, nothing could ever contain him. Much
Right.
like Jim Carrey. Like,
Mhm.
yes, they can be amazing, serious actors. They both have been in really great movies. Obviously, I would say Robin Williams a little bit more, but it's just, that's who they are. They can't really be contained. So to see Robin Williams in that role, acting the way he was, talking the way he was, he just felt so suffocated that it didn't even feel like him. I
No,
don't know.
no, I mean, you're right. He did. It was all right. So let's move on, and I will just gloss over Julia Roberts. I think we've spoken back to that. I think
Kind of covered her.
Bob Hoskins, I think, did a good job as Mr. Smee. A little more sinister Mr. Smee than people who are maybe more familiar with the Disney version.
Yeah.
He's less bumbling, but he's definitely. I mean, the whole brainwash his kids was his idea.
Yeah.
Makes him love you.
Yeah, that was No, the funny thing is,
That's
like,
kinda weird.
this all happens over the course of a couple of days, right? Like, that was
3
a pretty
days.
quick brainwash, to be perfectly honest. When in the fake school, where the one girl was really upset she got an F, like, is this really something you're gonna? Is
But
this?
she cares that she got an F.
Yeah, she was so upset. Like, how dare you give me an F? Like, really?
Honey, you've been kidnapped by a pirate.
It's
There's more important things.
priorities, Maggie. Come on,
Mhm.
let's get with it here. Yeah, so that was kind of strange, and also the idea that like, oh well, he's overweight, so we need to run him until he's not overweight anymore. Like Robin Williams actually wasn't that overweight.
No.
I'm picturing in my head the fat shaming people freaking out watching this movie, going like, how dare you say he's so fat? Like, well,
Yeah.
They were going on and on and on
yeah,
about
I mean, they talked how fat he was,
and
and, like,
this and that.
and I remember thinking like they really should have made him a lot fatter.
Yeah.
Plus, you got Boom Boom over there who seems to be handling himself quite well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't remember. What's his name? Boom Boom? I'm trying to think.
Thud.
Thud Butt. Yeah. Sorry. I like my name better. I'm going to keep it
I mean,
Boom Boom.
there's fat, and then there's roll yourself into a freaking ball.
Literally.
But
And
he's
pull
the
down
new
the
leader
sticker.
of the Lost Boys at the end of this
Yeah.
movie. Like, so, I don't know why they're going off about him being fat, because apparently it doesn't really matter. It's Neverland. You can be fat. It's cool.
You know, speaking of that, him taking over, apparently that was now I'm trying to find it and I can't. Apparently that was kept secret from everyone except for Robin Williams and Spielberg, so that all of the young actors didn't know who Peter Pan was going to give his sword to at the end. So their reactions were apparently genuine.
And what a payoff it was.
Oh, yeah.
That just made the film, seeing those little annoying...
You know what? And here's the sad thing, though, is that I kind of liked Rufio, and I thought it would have been a lot better if Rufio... Now, granted, Rufio had to die for drama, so what kind of a worthless movie to sacrifice yourself for in the name of drama, but, you know, they didn't have to kill off Rufio. But I kind of thought Rufio would have been a better choice to keep alive, simply because, you know, newfound... Whatever. I didn't make the movie, and I would have made it better. That's right. I'm saying I could do a better job than Steven Spielberg. And if you don't think so, just go watch Hook and tell me I can't do a better job than Steven Spielberg.
Well, not to totally derail it, but, you know, the concept of this film, setting aside everything else, the concept is not a bad concept. I think it is interesting to explore the idea of like what would happen if Peter Pan grew up, etc.
I agree.
I just thought the execution was awful
It
across
was.
the board. You know, you could have made this an interesting movie, and you had $70 million to do it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, even they got Phil Collins to come in and play an inspector. I mean, he was worthless. Like, didn't he? Like, maybe this is a prank. Like, there are claw marks all over the walls. These kids have been taken by a cult there, Inspector Good. How about you get on that?
Yeah.
All right. So Maggie Smith is Granny Wendy, the part she kind of plays in all her movies.
Yeah. And possibly the creepiest scene in the whole movie.
Yeah. I don't.
I mean,
I think
not
the
creep- not
creepiest
creepy
scene in
by
the
the
entire
end of
movie
it.
has to be when Peter kisses the sleeping what's his wife's name, Moira.
Yes.
Yeah, when
Oh,
Peter kisses
yeah.
Moira, but like she's still sleeping, it's like I will give her a real kiss. Like, yeah, she's sleeping. That's not right. And Wendy just kind of sits there and lets it happen. It's like, Wendy, you gonna stop in at any
That
point?
only works in animated movies.
Yeah, like that. It's kind of creepifying, and I'm pretty sure that's minimum a misdemeanor, at a minimum.
Jeff, which one were you talking about?
I was talking about the. Now, it's not creepy in the later context when you find out that she's actually the real Wendy and that she and
Is that okay? It's the one that
Yeah.
freaked me out.
the one where she's like remembering him as a young lad and leaning in close and stuff like that.
About
of course,
like
that's,
wishing
yeah,
that he would have stopped her wedding,
Yeah.
and she's like
Yeah.
pulling him in all close and whispering.
yeah,
And you just get over hearing that she raised him,
Mhm.
yeah,
and that she's kind of like
also granny.
a mom or a grandma. And I don't know, maybe it went straight over my head, but at that point I was still thinking, is she Wendy? Is she just this old lady? Who exactly is she?
Yeah.
And when she starts doing that, like, ew, stop it, old lady, that's creepy.
It was a little
That
creepy.
was really weird.
But
It's really weird.
I mean, it's a weird concept. The whole idea that she told all her stories about her trips to Neverland to what's his
Real
name?
Jan Barrie.
Yeah, J.M. Barrie, who lived next door, who then stole all those stories and made a ridiculous amount of money. I hope he gave them some kickbacks,
Right?
Yeah.
Seriously.
because otherwise, that's a jerk move. Yeah, I'm wondering if J.M. Barrie's estate had an issue with it, or
Guess what? We're gonna portray him as a thief and a
yeah,
peg.
this thieving man of intellectual I don't know. It's public domain. What can they do about it anymore?
Mm.
Yeah. All right. So the kids. So I looked up Maggie and Jack. Maggie Smith has only been in one other thing, and that was in 1995. She was a voice actor in something called The American Experience.
Yeah.
And then I think she just left acting altogether.
I actually looked her up because I thought she looked so familiar. She looks a lot like another actress around her age in some movie I've seen, and it was driving me nuts. But I'm like, I know her. What's she from? And then I look it up, and yeah, she's been in one other thing. She
Yeah.
must have just up and I don't know.
I mean,
maybe
she
her
had to have
parents
just
pulled her from acting or something.
Yeah, she must have just up and left because just left. And so I did try to look up some stuff about her, not to be all creepy-ish, but I do know that she graduated from Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut in the class of 2006, and she was a member of the Delta Psi Epsilon sorority. So
Ooh,
Oh,
fascinating.
wow.
yeah, so you can thank IMDb for those two little tidbits because I'm taking them as fact. See, Jack, played by Charlie Korsmo. Yeah, I should play. Amber Scott played Maggie. Charlie Korsmo played Jack. I swear I've seen him in 100 things.
He's
but
the kid in Dick Tracy.
he is the kid in Dick Tracy.
He is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which was before this, in matter,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Dick
I
Tracy
guess.
was 1990. Yeah, so he was.
Oh.
That was before this. He was in What About Bob? He was, and then he was in Hook, and then he has no other credits until '98 when he was in Can't Hardly Wait.
Wow. You know, it's funny. Much like the kid who played Chunk in Goonies, he grew up to be a lawyer and is not an actor anymore.
Oh, good for him. Do you know where he graduated? That's what we're saying now. We're saying where these people went. I'm going to see if I can look it up for you, Ken.
MIT and Yale Law School.
Huh. Well, good
Interesting.
for him. All right then.
He's from Fargo, apparently.
Yeah.
Of all places.
He had a 4.0 average in physics from MIT.
Wow.
And also these days he likes to go by Charles, of course. So, Charles,
Okay.
we remember that. We're looking out for you. Let's see, anyone else in the cast I really want to talk about? Moira's
There's
played by
two here.
Caroline Goodall.
Oh.
I have no idea who that is. I don't remember her from stuff.
Yeah, me neither.
I see she was in Schindler's List, but she apparently didn't leave that great of a impression on me. Cliffhanger, sure. Princess Diaries, I think I saw that. I'm pretty sure I saw that. I know I've seen that. I don't remember who she is. There we go. Alright, so, congratulations, Caroline Goodall. Now didn't Carrie Fisher and George Lucas have a cameo in this?
Yeah, apparently they were walking outdoors or something. I never saw them though. I don't know what this is a
Apparently
reference
there's
to.
some kind of a couple that starts floating. I was just reading about that actually.
But
know.
I
didn't know.
don't remember ever seeing that happen in the movie. That's the
I
thing.
don't either.
I watched the movie, then I
I
read
watched
that.
it today.
I read that little note, and I'm like, I don't remember a couple ever accidentally float. I remember somebody looking up at Toodles when he was flying away, like at the very end.
Maybe
Which
that's
is,
it.
I don't know. I gotta say though, every time somebody does this, and this is not just in this movie, but like in any time when somebody gets like the pixie dust and they start flying, the first thing I think of, because they all start flying so high, I'm like, man, you do not want to be up that high when that pixie dust runs out. I never see it portrayed as this gradual, you eventually stop flying and you descend, and you're on the ground. It's usually it just stops and then you fall. You really gotta watch out for that, because I keep thinking, I don't want to be way up high when the pixie dust runs out, but it must last a while. A little sprinkle was able to take him straight to Neverland. What is it, second star on the left and straight on till morning? Is that what they say? Is that a thing?
Yeah, that's in Wrath of Khan, too. Right at the...
That's right. Well,
This is ridiculous. I can't believe this is a thing, but now that I see it, I can't unsee it. Glenn Close played the pirate that got put in the box, the punishment box.
What?
by Hook.
what do you mean Glenn Close?
Glenn Close.
What?
What?
Is
Now,
there a
granted,
different Glenn Close that I'm not familiar with?
Now, granted, I'm looking at Wikipedia, and it's not
Well,
like I've
then
never
it's real.
seen
It's
Wikipedia
fact.
get it wrong, but now that I see it, I'm picturing the beard on her face, and I can't.
I mean, I remember thinking it kind of looked like a woman, but
All right, so let's go to
it's
Google.
not like I thought Glenn Close.
I'm gonna type Glenn
What? What's the story here?
Close
Did she just want to be in it that bad? There were
pirate.
no more female roles?
Booba. All right, so there. You all heard me typing Glenn Close pirate boo box. Let's go to images and holy cow, that's Glenn Close.
Why? What?
That is Glenn Close. What in the what? That's
Why would
Ew, this is kind of weird.
Did she just want in the movie this badly that she's like, okay, there's no more women characters left, I'll just take whatever you got, Steven? Oh, wow.
Apparently that not to completely divert you back, but that Carrie Fisher cameo, it says the kissing couple who begin to float when some fairy dust lands on them are actually George Lucas and Carrie Fisher.
Oh, they were kissing? That makes it
Kissing.
creepy. Yeah.
I know.
I can't
Sorry.
imagine any living creature kissing George Lucas. I'm sorry. I just don't imagine him as an organism that engages in any contact with the opposite sex or the same sex, to be perfectly honest. Either one.
There's a ridiculous rock and roll connection that we've got to cover here.
Yes, I just read that, by the way.
Oh,
I can't believe this.
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
One of them I spotted,
more than
the
Phil
other-
Collins?
Yeah, more than Phil Collins, all right.
All right.
And I
More
spotted
than-
one of them.
Yeah.
David Crosby and Jimmy Buffett were in Hook's pirate crew.
Wait, what?
What?
I was gonna say something else. I didn't know
There's-
that.
No.
Yes.
Holy cow.
David Crosby I spotted myself. I didn't see Jimmy Buffett, but now I've read through the list.
Jeff, earlier you told me that there were certain parts of Hook that reminded you of another god-awful movie that made me want to slam my head into a wall. Do you remember what that was?
It was Labyrinth. There
Do
were
you
actually
know
a
who
lot
turned down the role of James Hook?
Who? Oh
David
my God!
Bowie?
Was it David Bowie? Oh wow!
Oh, Bowie would have been so horrible as Hook. The one highlight of the film is Dustin Hoffman, so let's...
Yeah.
Could have been
Holy
so much
cow.
worse.
My
Oh,
point
man.
to Jen was, and
You remind
there
me
were
of the
a lot
Babe.
There were a lot of little things about this film that reminded me of Labyrinth. The little bit with the window and the lock. There was a bit where the kids were all dressed up in their wicker and rattan armor, running around with these weird guns. I was like, this is the Goblin scene in the city all over again. Little stuff like that that just reminded me in a bad way of Labyrinth. Now, fortunately, there was no music to go with it as well, but yeah.
Oh, okay, that's... All right. I guess one more person, and I'm going to put the cast to bed. This was Gwyneth Paltrow's
Yes.
feature film debut. See, Steven Spielberg's her godfather. So whenever you hear
Yeah.
Gwyneth
Oh, I
Paltrow
didn't
talk
know
about,
that.
yeah, so he gave her big break. So whenever she talks about trying to break into this business and how she had to pull herself up and work for it, and let's just not forget that she actually made her big break because Steven Spielberg is her godfather, and that every person hiring her knows that Steven Spielberg is her godfather. So Gwyneth Paltrow. And I know I'm very hard on Gwyneth Paltrow on Hero Talk, and I'm really hoping she will listen and better herself. That's my goal. That's
Work on
I
yourself.
started Hero Talk for one reason and one reason only, and that was to better Gwyneth Paltrow. That's none of that is actually true. I didn't even start Hero Talk, so just all of that is just gibberish. All right, so we're done. We're done with. Oh man,
Can I
no,
say
we got
one more thing?
One more person.
Oh, you go ahead.
Dante Bosco as Rufio. We almost forgot him. So I'm looking at his IMDb page. He apparently went into voice acting and character roles, and he has worked basically non-stop since Hook.
Really?
Good for him.
Like, not, like, look at his IMDb page. You have to go, like, 3/5 of the way down the page to even make it to Hook. And bearing in mind that Hook's not even the only thing that he has out in 1991. And then he's got a couple of projects in 93,
I saw
and then,
that
like,
he was in little shows like Fresh Prince, and
Yeah.
not that that's
He
a
had, like-
little show, but like Wonder Years, and
Yeah.
like he made a lot of little episode.
yeah, he
appearances,
did a
too.
lot of voice acting.
I didn't know that. I didn't see that.
Yeah, a lot of voice acting for some Nickelodeon and I think some Disney shows in there.
Uh-oh. Disney Junior?
Nothing that I recognize from Disney Junior, to be honest. I looked for it.
Shucks.
I looked for it, but he was like Jake Long, American Ninja, and I don't think that was a Disney Junior show. At least well before I started listening to it. But he was Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. So that's a
Yeah.
pretty big role, because that's like the main antagonist and then not antagonist. I don't know. Weird thing to start spoiling that right now in Hero Talk, but it's a thing. He was so he's been in a ton of stuff. I think between this and the Avatar royalty checks, I think he's good. I don't think he's got to worry about working anytime soon.
Mm-mm.
But yet he continues to work. I mean, he has at least 5 upcoming projects already in IMDb that are coming out
Wow.
with him. So a working actor, if there ever was one. So I'm really glad the curse didn't hit him, and that.
Yeah.
But the one bright spot, I suppose. The funny thing is, like, you can't even say, like, oh, this was his debut, because he's got acting credits that go all the way back to 88.
Wow.
Yeah, he was in Moonwalker. Jeff.
Oh, really?
He was.
Holy cow.
Oh, boy. That will never be a Hero Talk. Maybe if Hero Talk goes on for, like, 20 years, and I'm really hard up for movies, maybe we'll do Moonwalker.
We'll get desperate one day.
Yeah, alright. So let's
But
now...
one
go
more
ahead.
thing about the cast.
Okay. Oh, no.
Apparently, Dustin Hoffman's all 3 of his kids made appearances in the movie. Did you guys know this?
I did
No.
not know.
His youngest son plays 5-year-old Peter Pan. His daughter plays Jane in the play at the beginning of the movie. And his oldest son plays a little league player in Jack's baseball game. So he got all 3 of his kids in this movie.
Man, this movie's just rife with nepotism, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is. All
Sorry,
right.
I had to mention
We're
that.
done.
Go
No
ahead.
more cast. No more cast. Let's talk about this stunning story work.
Ah.
So why would Hook? First of all, why does Hook have to wait for Peter to come to London to take his kids? Why would that matter? Why couldn't he just go to San Francisco to take his kids? Or how would he even know he was coming to London? It was like he had like a Google alert, you know? Like,
Yeah.
Then he knows, and he takes his kids to try to bring him out to have a battle. Like, why don't you just take Peter? And you know what? Let's just start with something that really, really, really bothered me. So Tinkerbell knocks out Peter to take him to Neverland, you know, because he didn't want to go on his own.
Mm-hmm.
So Tinkerbell knocks him out, and she takes him to the middle of Pirate Cove.
Yeah.
Why did you take him to Pirate Cove? Why didn't you just take him to the Lost Boys? Why would you drop him in a place where he would be in danger? It's almost like if somebody were to take Tinkerbell and say, Tink, why did you drop him here? She'd be like, because that was what was in the script. That was the next scene, is that there's no reason.
Mm-mm.
It's stupid. And it's just almost just to make Peter do his pirate voice thing.
He immediately gets jumped for his shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole, like, he's reaching up and he's like, oh, just touch his hand. Like, why won't he reach? Why won't he reach? Like, Jack, seriously right now? Like, this movie's so stupid.
Yeah.
It was a really ridiculous scene that was just supposed to set up like, oh, well, you give us 3 days and you'll have your epic war. And then he's so mad he didn't just shoot him. And I'm sitting there watching Hook going like, yeah, why didn't you just shoot him? Did you really want the big epic war? The Lost Boys seemed to do a pretty good job without Peter leading them, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
I never really understood Hook's full motivation, and then, he just tries to transform Jack then with that really weird baseball game, which I can't talk about. Thank you, CinemaSins. But then, it almost seemed like Jack straight up forgot Peter.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's like they're implying that like Neverland makes you forget.
Yeah.
Or has the ability to do that, although the film's rarely internally consistent about anything, so who knows?
Yeah, I guess. After TikTok Croc was still stuffed, but still ate Hook. So, since we're jumping around and we're paying no real attention to the chronology of the story, the whole Rufio fight, like, didn't it seem like every movie in the 90s kind of had that fight where, like, the secondary character would fight the main bad guy and then died so as to motivate the primary character? Like, it was so overdone that I remember even as a child watching this in 91 thinking, oh, Rufio's gonna die. Like, he's not gonna win. He's just gonna die because he's Hook, and Peter Pan
Yeah.
has to beat Hook. So why even set this up for any reason other than to kill Rufio?
Yeah. Well, he's just not bangarang enough in the end, and
Bangarang.
yeah, someone had to die. I
Yeah,
wonder if that's in the source material.
but it's kind of weird because, you know, 'cause you have Rufio, who's actually kind of an older kid, because you can't kill, like, you imagine if you kill one of those young kids, like,
yeah.
you'd lose your rating right there. So they gotta kill, like, the adult-looking kid
Yeah.
with the weird hair. And then the fight, like, if you actually pay attention to the fight with Hook and Peter, it's not entertaining or fun at all.
No.
And it's drawn out, and it goes on forever. And like, this should have been like a 15-second thing. I don't know.
It could have been.
Yeah.
Easily. I mean, considering how much time they had spent drawing out everything else in the movie, why they had to draw out this, I don't know.
I remember liking this movie so much when I saw it in the theaters. And I haven't seen it since then. Like, this is the first time since 1991 I've seen the movie Hook.
Wow.
In any way. I don't think I've even caught it on TV. Although, like, 2 days after I watched it on Netflix, it was on BBC America. And so I was like, wow, what are the chances? But I don't know. It didn't hold up. And so, Jen, you seeing this for the first time, did it look dated or what? Like, did you just think like, oh, well, I could see how this is a 90s film, or were you just like, I guess it's, what? Like, explain to me, how could I like it and then not like it?
I think it did feel pretty dated. I feel like a lot of the set design and the costumes, I mean, it's so weird to say it feels dated because of course it does. It's like Pirate Land.
Yeah.
But to me, the movie itself feels very dated. It's just not something that could hold up. It didn't feel quite timeless. It felt very stylized.
Yeah. Well, those cell phones were obviously very, very nice.
Yes, very, very. It just, to me, Neverland in general just looks very, very wrong. And I get why you guys are saying that you liked parts of it at least, but when I picture Neverland, I picture more of a like classic pirate island, something you would come across in, Assassin's Creed Black Flag. It didn't feel that way to me. It didn't feel like this lush pirate island, vibrant green. It just, it felt like a bad set.
It really did, like a really bad, like, dock set.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
It's hard to picture where the 70 million went, like even the pirate ship.
CGI, but
yeah, the Jolly Roger, which I don't think we ever got to see underway, did we?
No, it was docked the whole friggin' movie.
Yeah, the Jolly Roger was docked the entire time. Like, just let that sink in right there.
I completely lost the pirate. Like, I love pirate stuff. I always have. I don't even know why.
Did they fire a
have
can
any of
the
that.
whole film?
No.
No, other than the fact that, I mean, the ship was just another place to have a set, but like, he never did anything. He wasn't out looking for treasure. Now, bear in mind, I watch Jake and the Neverland Pirates, now Captain Jake and the Neverland Pirates, on Disney Junior, and Hook is always out doing something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is always out looking for treasure. That's his thing. He never wants to be in port. He's constantly looking for treasure. That's his thing. He loves treasure. The great and glorious Captain Hook wants his treasure.
Yeah.
And you didn't see any of that. I mean, so it's kind of sad when the Disney Junior show seems to get Hook a little bit better than the movie Hook does. And also, on that show, he's got these two musical crewmates, Sharky and Bones, who are really fun, and they sing great songs, and they do pirate rock. And I missed Sharky and Bones, to be honest.
To me, the classic 1953, I believe, Disney cartoon feels less dated than this one.
Yeah, I have to agree.
I would agree with
honestly.
that. No, I'll say
It's timeless.
I was in love with Fox's Peter Pan and the Pirates, which in terms of look and feel was a world away from this.
Should check that out.
I mean, Hook doesn't look like Hook. They changed his look. They changed Peter's look. They changed Wendy's look. They were really trying to not look like the Disney flick. And I was a huge fan of that. And in fact, I love how they portrayed Captain Hook. He was actually a lot more stand-up, and he wasn't necessarily always a bad guy. They portrayed him as like being fairly noble. It was a really nice take on him, voiced by Tim Curry.
Oh,
it was.
I love him.
Yeah, so I mean you can't find it anywhere. Like it never got a DVD release.
Oh,
it's not.
That's a shame.
Oh, really?
Like you can maybe find some old VHSs, I think, or I think maybe you could probably find somebody who burned some of it to DVD. But like there's nowhere is the whole series preserved somewhere, which is a shame because I think that's probably my favorite portrayal of Peter Pan, and it's certainly my favorite portrayal of Captain Hook. Not that I want to down Dustin Hoffman, or I think Corey Burton's currently doing his voice on Disney Disney Jr. take a shot. But I think Tim Curry was probably my favorite Captain Hook, and they did it better. So, this was a world away from that. But again, I recognized most everything from other various incarnations of Hook. I'm really having a hard time trying to think where the bright spots were. The Lost Boys and their whole little village and world thing was a mess. The whole Julia Roberts trying to interact with people from her blue screen set was, it looked disjointed. It really, really did. It's like everyone's doing stuff and then you just show like Tinkerbell in some hole somewhere giving a reaction shot to it. The Lost Boys training was kind of odd, and there was, the skateboarding was, stupid, I guess.
They have a skating rink,
and when they're chasing him back and forth on the half pipe, dude, seriously, just leave the half pipe. This isn't hard. It was so drawn out, and then it took him, in my opinion, way too long to figure out a happy thought. I don't care how overworked you are. You can get a happy thought.
You have a wife and 2 kids.
You have a wife and 2 kids. And he's like, I finally figured out my happy thought. It was you. Yeah. It took him 2 days to think, I wonder if my son makes me happy. That's not a plus sign here, Peter.
Yeah.
That should be a little embarrassing for you. All right, I'm just gonna ask really briefly before we finish up hero talk with the usuals. Okay. Jeff, did you have any bright spots in this where you were really looking at it and thinking this preserves the memory of this movie?
No, not really.
Okay, that's about what I thought.
I remember when they showed the island from above, and there was the compass floating in the compass point floating in the water. I was like, hey, that's funny. It kind of underlines the fact that this is this magical place or whatever. But thinking about it after the fact, that's about the only time I had that reaction.
All right, so the little compass thing in the water, awesome. All right, so Jen, any bright spots in this for you? Anywhere that you really think that we need to highlight where they got it right?
There's only one thing that I kind of liked. It absolutely does not redeem the movie for me, but it's something that I saw some good in it. But I was going to mention that as my favorite scene, so should I save it?
Yeah, just save it.
Okay.
Just save it.
We need all we can get.
There's only one part I liked, and I need to save it for when I have to say the one thing. All right. So let's get to our favorite scenes. And also, while we're talking, guys, start thinking in your heads, because we're going to have a least favorite scene in this one, too. I think this movie more than earned it.
Yeah,
so,
we should, actually.
So, Jen, since we were already on you, just start with you. What was your favorite part of Hook?
My favorite part, I feel like you guys may laugh at this, but I have a reason here.
Okay.
I think my favorite part was kind of the happy end, where he goes in the house and the kids are there and it's kind of this happy reunion.
Jen, he's lost his job. He can no longer maintain the lifestyle they had. They're going to be homeless. He ruined that deal. He is now unhireable. That's your happy ending?
Those owls will be fornicating wherever they want, up and down the Western Seaboard.
And let's be perfectly honest, his cellular bill is going to bankrupt them.
Yeah, exactly. It was on for 3 days.
It was on for 3 straight days, roaming in London. That's going to be like a $30,000 bill.
You can tell it's the 90s because his battery didn't die in 5 hours. That's on a smartphone.
Yeah.
No, here's the thing. It's very, very cheesy, but that scene, there's a little bit of a magic from Robin Williams that shows through in that scene. I feel like he kind of comes alive for the only few moments in that whole movie. And that kind of gave me a little fuzzy feeling because I absolutely adore him. And I know this isn't the tribute to him, and we're going to properly, cover that later in another one, but he kind of lights up and he's like, what did I tell you about this window? And he's like, always keep it open. That moment, he feels like Robin Williams. And I was like, oh, and that's why it's my favorite scene. That's all I got. There was something about him that was actually able to shine through. So that's why I like that scene.
That's as good a reason as any. All right, Jeff, what was your favorite part of Hook?
Look at the risk of stealing yours. When the guy was trying to steal second base in the pirate game and the catcher shot him, I actually did laugh out loud. That was that was pretty good.
I have forsworn making the references to that baseball scene because CinemaSin stole it from me, and I'm still mad about that. Yeah, that was pretty funny. Yeah. I'm going to have to say my favorite part of the movie, and we kind of maligned this scene earlier, but it actually still was probably the most entertaining scene for me, was right after Peter, quote-unquote, escaped, or they thought he died, but then the mermaid saved him or whatever. There's the scene where Hook is talking to Mr. Smee, and they're back and forth in the hole, I'm going to shoot myself, don't you stop me, Smee, don't do it. And I love it because it's so classic Smee and Hook, you know, without the suicide implication.
Yeah.
But it was funny seeing them act off each other, and plus I love Bob Hoskins, and
Yeah.
he's so, we haven't really brought him up a whole lot in this movie, but he was one of the, Bob Hoskins and Dustin Hoffman, those were the two shining beacons of competence in this movie, and it was their big scene together, just with each other, just being able to play off each other, and it was entertaining to watch, and I love Bob Hoskins. I love him even in the movies he's bad in, and Hook is no exception. It's a horrible movie, and he's still my favorite thing to look at. One of the finest actors of our time. I can't say enough good things about him. I'm so glad we've done Roger Rabbit and we could pay him tribute, because this was not going to be his either. But but no, I just love seeing Bob Hoskins and Dustin Hoffman work off each other, and that was their big scene, and it was really entertaining for me. So that's my favorite.
Just a quick note about competency. Dustin Hoffman was actually nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Actor for this film.
He absolutely should have been. Yeah.
He lost to Robin Williams for The Fisher King.
Oh,
which I really like that film, and if he was going to lose to somebody, it might as well be Robin Williams for a good Robin Williams film.
Yeah. It's nice to kind of remind people every now and then that Robin Williams is actually an extremely competent actor. Like, far beyond just, like, the laughing and the noises and the riffing and stuff like that. He was phenomenally talented.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Speaking of not phenomenally talented, Julia Roberts got a Golden Raspberry nomination for Worst Supporting Actress for this.
Oh.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It does.
Apparently this was a John Williams score. Did you get John Williams from
I knew it was a John Williams, but man, I'm telling you, this was just, it really felt like he was just using some stuff that he had, like, written that didn't work for something. You know what? Like some stuff like he tried to write for Superman. He was like, oh, this is awful. I can't use this. And then, like, one day, like, Spielberg calls him. He's like, I need a grand soundtrack. He's like, well, shoot, I can give him that old failed Superman thing that was just too awful that I couldn't possibly give to Warner Brothers.
Well, I remember while I was watching it thinking, this sounds like the music from something, and it was, I can't remember what movie now, but it makes sense that it's actually someone who, who's very famous, but yeah, maybe it was like scraps from another movie.
It really does. It felt a lot like, remember when we were talking about Danny Elfman doing Batman Returns, and it was just like he just pulled the scraps from Beetlejuice and just threw it up there? That's what this kind of felt like. It was the scraps from Superman that he just chucked up there. He's like, yeah, grand flying, sure, it's the same stuff. The same tones. I don't gotta be crazy about it. Alright, so now we're gonna talk about our least favorite scenes. And Jeff, just to be different, I'll start with you. What was your least favorite part of Hook?
The imaginary meal. Just I was just so over this film by that point, and that just it was just piling, awfulness on top of awfulness, and then you get these child actors got to work with miming basically, and it was insufferably bad.
They were terrible mimers. Like the kid eating corn. I'm like, I don't believe for 1 second you're actually eating that corn.
Yeah. These were the takes they kept, apparently.
Yeah. That was, and then what was this, like, I'm pretty sure there was just a bowl of pink goo.
I know what you're talking about.
What the heck was that?
Yeah, like, what is that you're supposed to be eating? That doesn't look good at all. That looks disgusting.
I don't know.
Listen, the turkey leg, I get. The corn, I get. The rolls, I get. The weird pink and like turquoise
like
goo.
lime green and like yellow and I don't know.
It was like food coloring and shaving cream is what it looked like.
Yes. With a little bit of mashed potatoes and some Play-Doh for good measure.
Yeah.
It was a nasty combination. I don't know what it was or what it was made of.
I cannot think of a single age in my entire life where that would have been what I would have imagined myself eating.
Oh boy.
Yeah, alright. That's very well done. Alright, Jen, what was your least favorite part of Hook?
Honestly, I really dislike the whole movie, so it's really hard to pick one. So I'm going to say that For me, the fact that I actually did know how long this movie was going to be going into it, because somebody
so
wanted
long.
to tell me.
But it's so long.
I knew going into it that it was going to be freaking long. I had to censor myself, sorry.
Yeah.
And, when you start off, you need something to, I was going to say hook you in. Sorry.
Get it?
I see what you did there.
Get it?
Because a Captain Hook, that sneaky snook.
Something has to grab you early on when a movie's this long. You have to get interested. You have to care. And the beginning was so god-awful with them making Robin Williams look like a really bad dad and really annoying. The kids were just completely under my skin. They were so annoying to me. The wife was like non-existent. I barely remember even seeing her. She had no life to her. The whole beginning of the movie, leading up to all the fantasy, was just so flat and so boring and confusing at parts that I really feel like the start of it is what kind of leads you off track in some way. So probably just the scene of Robin Williams at work and then driving to the park to see that he missed the game and he's just standing there. That whole sequence just bugged the Jesus out of me.
Yeah, I could see that.
And then the punk kid with his, sorry, I'm just going to keep going.
Okay.
With his baseball slamming it against the I would have slapped that kid. I'm terrified of flying too. So if someone was banging a baseball up against a window, yeah.
Well, it was a late night flight, wasn't it? Like, people are trying to sleep. That's just plain rude.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Where was the TSA?
Yeah. Wouldn't get away with that today, I'll tell you that much.
No.
And isn't it, you're just reminding me of the flight, like, isn't there this weird part where the daughter draws, like, the plane going down in a fiery wreck, and, like, Mommy and Jack and Maggie all have parachutes, but then, like Peter's just falling and dying?
Yeah.
I think it was the boy that did it, because wasn't he asking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was the girl who drew that. Like,
well, she was holding it up, but then I remember Peter asking the son, why didn't you give me a light, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Either way,
that was
really
pretty
messed
disturbing.
up.
Let's be honest. That was kind of jacked up, just to kind of
It was.
really drive the point home. I got it. They don't like him. I get it.
They want you dead.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's messed up. All right. So my least favorite part has got, and we've already mentioned it, but this is seriously my least favorite part is when Tinkerbell suddenly makes herself big, and then she kisses Peter, who at this point has the mentality of, like, the 10-year-old Peter. So let's try to wrap your head around adult Tinkerbell 10-year-old Peter for a second. Then let's remember that this is also, she's the fairy that kidnapped him as an infant. He didn't run away. He says he ran away. He kind of rolled away.
He
Worst
totally ran
mother ever. You know,
Yeah,
like
she
he
didn't see him rolling away?
Yeah, didn't see him, didn't go after him. Like, he was just laying in the middle in the rain. Like, it started raining. The ladies clearly didn't stay on that park bench. She's like, oh, my kid rolled away. Ta-ta, let's go have tea. I don't know why I made her say that.
Afternoon tea.
Yeah. And then Tinkerbell, like, kidnaps him, which I guess is probably better than letting him die on account of he's an infant and can't actually do anything about taking care of himself. But, you know, it just is as creepy as it was when Wendy was kind of like, oh, you were in love with me and she raised him as a kid. This is Tinkerbell actually literally raised him since he was a little kid, would have had to have changed diapers, and now as an adult man with the mentality of a 10-year-old, she's always wanted to kiss him. And it was just, it just gave me the heebie-jeebies. It was just so wrong. There was a lot of creepy stuff in this movie. Like, we have old Wendy kind of into Peter a little bit. We have Peter kissing sleeping Moira, which is, again, a misdemeanor, at least. And then we have, like, the whole Tinkerbell kidnapped, falling in love with 10-year-old Peter Pan. It is, so, yeah, I would say that was, of all the creepiness in this movie, that was the creepiest, and it just kind of makes me uncomfortable watching it now.
Yes, I agree.
So that's my least favorite part. So now we gotta give the sucker a score. Oh, man. All right, Jeff, I'm going to start with you.
All right, on this, one imaginary bowl of multicolored slop out of 5.
Yeah. I started with you because I thought you were going to go to the multicolored slop, and I thought if he does, I need to have the extra time to think of a new one. So, Jen, what would you give Hook?
You know, I normally give it more of a number rating, like Jeff just did, but I couldn't even muster up the energy, so I'm just going to give this one one boo out of a box.
Boo out of a box.
Yep.
That's fine.
That'll
Really?
do.
That'll do. I'm gonna give this movie a dead stuff TikTok crock.
Yes.
Period.
I think that's about what I would just. If somebody ever said, "What do you think of Hook?" I'm gonna say a dead stuff TikTok crock. And like,
The end.
that doesn't make any sense. Like, there you go. You got the Hook experience. All right.
I like that.
Mercifully, this one's over.
Ah.
Oh man, we need to do a good movie. We're in a bad streak right now, and I get the streaks, and I'm like, oh, I gotta quit Hero Talk. I can't keep wasting my life on these movies.
No, we still got a list of good movies, or movies that I know everyone else loves that I haven't seen yet, like that Galaxy Quest that we need to get to. So we have brighter things ahead of us.
We do. We need to get to one of those.
Stick with us, guys.
I cannot do another one of these movies.
I
And
can't
I'm
either.
gonna lose listeners. I seriously am gonna lose listeners because nobody wants to hear it. All right, so happy Thanksgiving to those of you who are celebrating,
Yes.
and for those of you who are not, just be thankful that you got to just listen to us talk about Hook and not watch it yourself.
And you're welcome.
Yeah, we took that bullet for
Took
you.
the bullet for you. Yep.
All right, so Jeff, Jen, thanks for coming on Hero Talk. Jen, sorry that you saw Hook finally.
I forgive you. Thanks for having me again.
All right. For those of you out there listening, I want to thank you all for sticking with us for this. If you have a movie you want to see, or if you just want to ask us a question, you can email at herotalk@enthusiacs.com. Because right now, it's basically, I'm getting a lot of ads for like human growth hormone and baby LoJack, and something today about some weird new military technology that's been released. I just got to click this weird creepy link sent from some man named G. I don't think I'm going to click that link, honestly.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, so you can email at herotalk@enthusiacs.com. You can check us out on Twitter, that is @enthusiacs. Check us out YouTube, Enthusiacs. We're on Facebook, Enthusiacs. Still not on Instagram. And as always, we will see you right back here for the next Hero Talk.